Here's how I made our baby shower backdrop from scratch. At 28 weeks pregnant, I sharpened my DIY skills by making this statement piece for people to take pictures in front of. I, of course, started where we all go when we're brainstorming, Pinterest. We knew we were having a boy and I wanted yellow, happy colors. Instantly, I found these Our Ray of Sunshine and Here Comes the Sun themes and I was sold. So I drew this incredible sketch and started planning. I lucked out on a free scrap sheet of plywood on Facebook Marketplace, but I wasn't sure if that would cut it. I then looked up wood, which was more expensive, until I realized my stepdad is often on work sites with a lot of scrap pieces, so I texted him for backup. He ended up getting me the exact dimensions I wanted and was even able to shave off the top into an arch. I drew to size what I wanted it to look like in Illustrator, and with the wood secured, my fiance helped by painting it the orange that we wanted while I worked on the sun that would attach to the top right corner. I struggled hard trying to figure out what to make the sun out of. I ended up with a hula hoop, plastic tablecloth, and foam board. I cut the foam board so the two pieces would make a circle and then hot glued the hula hoop to it. The tablecloth was folded and left all these wrinkles that I needed to iron out, but since it's super thin, I had to use butcher paper on top so it wouldn't melt. This was a bitch to do since you could only iron a square at a time, but it really made a difference. I folded it as much as I could so that it was less opaque and then taped it around the circle. Next were the words. I didn't know if heat transfers worked on wood, especially wood that has been painted, but I figured I'd try. I cut out You Are My Sunshine with my Cricut using their iron-on vinyl in white. Here's me weeding out the letters. Referring to my mock-up, I placed the sun in the corner and laid out the text where it fit best. Since the sun has an overhang, I called Josip to help me put it in place while I hot glued it. To make sure it would stick, we found some clamps to hold it still while it dried. They were really tight, so we used paper towel to soften the edges so no imprints were left in the tablecloth or the foam. I also had to capture the irony of working on a sun-themed backdrop outside while it was completely cold and snowing. Then I moved on to ironing. This worked really well in some areas and in others, not so much. Here's some camera audio explaining what was going wrong at that time.
Okay, so see here, some of them just wouldn't stick for the life of me. So like this, for example, and you see all that yellow stuff is the iron-on that is supposed to be the adhesive, so when you heat it, it connects. But since we ironed it so many times, it kind of just disintegrated. So what I'm doing is using Mod Podge instead. As you can see, even some of the yellow came through to the other side, so I'm assuming that's a similar reason. Maybe I heated it too long, and oh shoot, hope that's not in there. And yeah, so it started to turn a little bit yellow. But there were some that worked perfectly nice, so I don't know, maybe if I had one of these smaller heat presses, it might be easier, but all I have right now is this guy, so I don't know.
I'm using Mod Podge on this brush to flatten any of the lifting letters and finishing with my finger to spread it around and make sure there aren't globs of glue left behind. Lastly, I cut out some stars using a metallic vinyl. These were a little harder to keep on, so I'd say iron-on is the better method for wood, but keep in mind this vinyl is from the dollar store, so it could just be that it's lower quality. Now we have to make the arch freestanding. This was the hardest part for me to figure out, so shout out to @BuiltByLaw on TikTok for this video that really helped me. If you remember from the beginning, I also grabbed that free plywood sheet. This is me trying to measure if I had enough of it for my second piece and also to create the stand. I didn't have full confidence here, but there's no harm in trying. I mean, if it doesn't work, we can just lean the backdrop against the wall instead. I'm cutting out all the pieces needed based on the TikTok video I watched. Plywood is so easy to cut because you can just score it with an X-Acto knife and then bend it until it snaps. There was a lot of debris though, so lesson learned, gloves would be a good idea if you do this. These measurements were for me to find out the length of screw I need, but I could not understand screw sizing, so I got the wrong ones anyway. Here I'm holding the flaps while Josip drills them in. Like I said, we're going to ignore the fact that the screws are sticking out too long. I had a third piece of plywood for the cutout here, but we lost it, so I swapped it out for our broomstick. It actually stood on its own just from this, but we wanted to be extra careful and have added weight to avoid it being knocked over. I started looking up sandbags to buy, but can someone tell me why they're over $100? Luckily, I live with a Filipino man and knew exactly what would work instead, and for much cheaper. A bag of rice. So we laid the rice bag down and voila, it's freestanding. Now I had one more piece to finish with my remaining plywood. For this, I simply thrifted a striped bedsheet with the theme colors. I laid it out over top the plywood, ironed the wrinkles, no butcher paper needed this time, thank God, and staple gunned it together. I taped down the overhang on the backside just to tidy it up, and here I'm using the other side of the staple gun to push down any of the sharp edges that were sticking out. This plywood was light enough that it could lean against the wood without its own stand. I also made this cute flower arrangement with pieces all from the dollar store. And this is how it turned out. I love it. My friends Marielle and Alex completed the look by making the amazing balloon arch and lending me their stools and director's chair. The colors, the vibe, it was everything I imagined, and I'm so happy we got it done. If you like this video, make sure to follow because I have more DIYs to share from the shower.